Hello everyone, my name is Erin and this is my new vlog channel. And by new, I mean I have a bunch of other channels, but I'm starting this one now. This channel is meant for my college vlogs, but I got this idea the other day and I thought it would be really fun to do a story time video. And yeah, I'm gonna give some background information before I get started. I moved to a different city when I was 9, which was basically in the middle of 2nd grade. And so all the stories I'm gonna tell are from the school I went to in my hometown. Also, all of them are from 1st grade, like I mentioned in the title. So let's get started. Alright, so the first story I'm gonna tell, this thing, I actually remembered this not too long ago, and it's not really a big deal, but I have such a clear memory of it for some reason. I don't know why, this stayed in my mind. Anyways, so this one random day, I think there was some sort of competition, a running competition. Again, I don't remember all the details. I don't know why I have this memory of I was competing with someone. Anyways, so when I was a kid, just generally, not just when I was a kid, but I've always been really fast at things in general. Like, I like everything. And when I was little, I was also very athletic and I was a really, really fast runner. When I heard that we were doing a running competition, I was like, oh my god, I'm so winning this shit. Back off, bitches, I am winning this. So, what they did was they paired us up in rows. This is a common thing in Romania. I didn't mention where I'm from. I'm from Romania. But they paired us up in rows, and there were several of us. And basically, at the start signal, the first person of each row would start running at the same time, and the first one to get back would win. Now the thing is, I've always had this issue when we're doing any kind of race. When I was doing any kind of race and that start signal went off, I had a very delayed I would always have a very delayed reaction. Basically what I mean is that normal people would start right when that signal goes off, but I'm the type that starts right after it's done going off. Like, the signal starts and right when it ends, that's when I go. And of course that's what I did that time, and that obviously means that when the other kids were already standing up, I was just getting started to get up. So obviously I had already lost like a few seconds from that. And then came another thing. We didn't have a very long distance to run. I think it was like 5 or 6 meters. And of course, at the end of the course, we had these cones. And in theory, we were supposed to run right to them, turn around, then go all the way back. You can probably tell how this turned out. I lost several seconds by going all the way around. I saw the kids next to me stopping and turning around, and I panicked. I just spit all over. I totally panicked because I realized what mistake I had made, and I was like, whatever, I am losing this, but I gave it my all, I ran back, and I obviously lost. Yeah, so that was that story. The next story I'm gonna tell is one I have told my friends many times, but no one ever laughed at it, probably because I didn't tell it right, so I'm gonna do it right this time. Again, I'm gonna have to give some background information so everything makes sense. So the school I went to has a total of 4 stories, including the ground floor, and my classroom was at the very last one. So every single day I would climb several flights of stairs to get to my classroom. And this one random day, I was just climbing the stairs as usual, thinking of some cartoon or whatever. Oh, and again, I forgot to mention this. I have to describe the floor plan so this makes sense. So we had the staircase, and from the staircase there was this long hallway, and on every side there were classrooms. And at the end of that hallway, there was a larger hallway with other classrooms. Yeah, so this one day, I got off the stairs, went into the hallway, and right off the bat, I realized that something was different. I looked around, and the floor tiles looked different. Like there was a completely different pattern. And I looked at it and I was, what the fuck? Minus the curves, of course. But that day was actually a Monday. I remember this because it makes the rest of the story make sense. And I thought, okay, a weekend passed. Maybe they just had time to change the floors. For whatever reason, they just changed the floors. And I just realized my door is open. I'm gonna leave it open, whatever. Anyways, so I thought it was plausible. And I kept going on. And I saw the wall decorations. There were things on the walls that looked different than what I was used to. But again, I thought, okay, the weekend passed, they had time to do this. So I went on and on and on. And I got to where my classroom was supposed to be. Now the thing is, all the classrooms in our school had the class name on a tag right on the door. And mine was first grade B. And when I got to that door and I looked at it, it said second grade B. And I was thinking, okay, it does say B, but why does it say second grade? So I was so confused, so baffled. I looked around and I was like, okay, let's find first grade. Maybe they changed shit and they didn't tell me for some reason. So right at the end of the larger hallway, there was first grade A. So I thought, okay, I'm just gonna go into this classroom. I went ahead, and I kid you not, I think a lot of people won't believe this, but I have such a clear image of this happening. It's insane. I opened the door, and I swear to God, I saw a very movie-like scene, I guess I could call it. Basically, first things first, it was full of these really perfect looking kids with perfectly tailored uniforms, and most important of all, this is what I really remember, and I can still see it in my head if I think about it. They had these blue curtains and the wind was blowing really hard through them, and it really looked like those kind of scenes in the movies where they use the curtains as an effect to kind of reveal something, and it felt like those curtains were revealing these perfect kids. Like, oh my god, this is the perfect class, the perfect kids. And I immediately... Okay, an alarm just went off and it cut what I was filming. Anyways, so I completely freaked out. And that's when it hit me. I'm at the wrong floor. So I went all the way back to the stairs, and of course, since my classroom was at the last floor, normally the staircases would end there, right? But of course, since I was not at the last floor, there was another flight of stairs. And of course, I made it super obvious that I had stopped one floor before my classrooms. I went back to my actual classroom, I went inside, and some of my friends were panicked because I wasn't there yet. I don't even know how much time that whole ordeal took, but apparently it was enough for my classmates to be panicked because I was late and I never miss class. So that was that. This one happened at the end of the school year, and I'm not sure if it was the last day. I think it was the one before, but it was just this random summer day. It was hot. I was outside and I was playing with some kids, and all of a sudden I fell and I scraped my knee pretty bad. But of course, since I was like 8 years old, I was pretty old, and I had done that so many times before, I didn't cry about it or anything. I just went back to my class. I grabbed a bottle of water, make sure to like clean up the wound, but I just left it like that because I didn't have anything with me, and I'm not the kind who goes to the nurse just for a scraped knee, you know? So I just left it like that. And our next class started because it was the break. So our teacher came into the classroom, and she said she was going to give out diplomas for like the best students in class. Now the thing is, we were all pretty much equal. Like, there was no high-ranking kid. I mean, it was first grade. Everyone was good. I mean, there were a few kids who were really crappy and who didn't study, but everyone was pretty good. But of course, she had to call me first. and give me first prize or whatever. And I went to get the diploma. So I got up, went to get the diploma, and I was going to get back to my desk so she wouldn't see my scraped knee. But she said, no, you have to stay in the front of the class. Everyone will stay in the front of the class. And I was, perfect, everyone's gonna see my scraped knee now. My gross scraped knee that is probably still bleeding and just looking gross and pulsating right there. Anyways, so I stand up. This is such a senseless story. I just realized because nothing else happens in here. I seriously just grabbed my diploma and I stood in front of the class and everyone was staring at my knee. And that's the story. Now, next story is kind of the highlight of this video. I don't remember the full context of the story. I don't know how this happened. It somehow did. And I really don't remember if it was my fault or someone else's. But whatever, it happened. Maybe if I talk to my parents and I ask them, I will update you guys somewhere on the screen or whatever and tell you what it really was. But it was just this random day of school. And I think I was finishing classes at noon, at 12 that day. And I was getting ready to leave. I was right at the exit. But there was no one to pick me up. Now, when I was in the first grade, I had a nanny because in my hometown I didn't have any relatives, and since my parents were at work, there was no one to stay with me. But my nanny wasn't there. Neither was her husband, who usually picked me up from school. So I panicked. I was like, oh my god, no one's here for me. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Of course, I now realize this. I could have just walked back home, but I didn't exactly live in the safest city in the world. Not that it would have been really risky to go by myself, but I was obviously too scared to do it. I knew how to get back home. It was quite close. It was just a few streets to go through, but I obviously didn't want to do that. So, I think it was like a guard or something that saw me just looking around and was like, is no one picking you up? And I'm like, I don't know, no one's here for me yet. And they're like, well, when are your parents getting off work? And I'm like, at 4. And then they're like, well, you're gonna have to wait here until 6 p.m. And I'm like, what? 6 p.m.? And they're like, yeah. So they closed the school because the older kids came in as well, and they started classes. I still remember how some of them would pass because I was still at that entrance hallway. I was still there. That's why I stood that entire time. And some older kids would come in and be like, oh, what's up with you? Why are you still here? I'm like, well, no one's coming to pick me up. And yeah, they would just pass and just go do their thing. And everyone had the same reaction. And yeah, I don't remember what I did to pass the time, but I spent hours and hours in that very hallway with my school bag right on my back in that same place for hours. I'm not even kidding that this actually happened. And I seriously believe that they were going to keep me there until 6 p.m., which really didn't make sense to me because my parents got off work at 4. And of course, when the clock hit 4, well, later than that, obviously, my mom showed up and picked me up. That's where the story ends. But of course, I was still locked in school for 4 hours. That's what happened. Changed the angles a little bit. I hope it doesn't look weird. Anyway, so like I mentioned earlier, I suddenly remembered some stories about that teacher. So I'm gonna talk about some habits she had that were really annoying. First off, our teacher was actually my neighbor. She knew me, which was the worst thing ever. I think it just made me more disadvantaged because she knew me. And basically, first off, this teacher never let us write on the blackboard unless she made us do it. And like in the breaks, if anyone wanted to play and draw some shit, no, she didn't let us. You are forbidden. Don't even dare to touch the blackboard. That was one thing. Another thing she went crazy about was our registers. Now this is a Romanian thing again. But in our school we basically have these registers where we've got all the students' names and all their grades. And she never ever let us look inside. We would come to her desk to get a test back or some shit like that. And a lot of us were obviously tempted to look at our own grades in the register. She had it open right in her face. But she would always be like, no, get the fuck away from it. No. She was such a bitch about it for no reason. Like, we were going to find out anyways. Like, why wouldn't we be allowed to see our own grades? It was so insane. She just never let us look. And the last thing that really pissed me off. Now again, this is a Romanian thing. Maybe other people do it too. Just let me know in the comments. I'd like to find out. But basically, in Romanian schools, every single day there is one or mostly two students on duty. And what these students do mostly is they just clean up around and just keep the place organized and whatever. And basically in our classroom, we had just a normal blackboard, a little sponge to clean that up. But our teacher really didn't like the idea of us going all the way to the bathroom to wet the sponge, then come back and clean up the blackboard. What she wanted us to do instead was to have a bucket full of water at all times in our classroom, and we would dip the sponge in there and then clean up the blackboard. Now the thing is, she obviously also wanted us to change the water in the bucket. And we were first graders. Imagine these tiny people, tiny first graders. I was like this height, and she wanted kids this height to grab that heavy ass full of water bucket, take it all the way to the bathroom, which was so far from my classroom, change the water, fill it up back again, and come back. And I actually did that once, and it was the worst. I didn't have any kind of power in my hands. It was so hard to carry around. Like, why the fuck would you have these tiny kids do that? I don't get it. I just can't. Anyways, so those are a few things about her. I hope she doesn't find this video, but I don't think she will. And even if she does, she doesn't know English, so yeah. I'm gonna start with a quite funny story that happened with this teacher. It's a really quick one. Basically, it was just this random math class. She was quite near me at some other desk facing some other girl, and her back was facing me. And she asked this other girl, what's 2 minus 2? And I don't know how this happened. I wasn't really thinking. I answered it out loud without realizing. I said 0. And she immediately hit me in the face with her book while still facing the other way. Like she was like this and hit me. Like that was just, what? How did you do that? She didn't even miss. Like she got my face really well. That, kids, is how Facebook was invented. I'm just kidding, it wasn't that long ago. This other story I have about her is a quite stupid one. Again, I'm not sure how this one happened, but it was just this random school day, and we were going to this theater play. I think it was our last class before we left, and I think we were doing some kind of crafty things because we weren't like talking to our teacher or anything. We were all just doing our thing, and all of a sudden she calls my name and she's like, "Can you the tickets?" And I'm like, "What?" But I didn't ask her anything. What I heard was, "Can you throw away the tickets?" So I got up. I saw that she had these pieces of paper in front of her, and I thought, okay, she wants me to throw those away. I'll go ahead and do that. So I grabbed them, went back to, no, the trash can was actually in the front of the class. So I went to the trash can, I threw them away. She didn't say anything. My classmates didn't say anything. I went back to my seat, minded my own business, and like 20 minutes or like half an hour passed. It like really no one realized what had just happened. And my teacher just suddenly calls my name and is like, "Where are the tickets?" And I'm like, "What tickets?" She's like, "The tickets, they're right here." And I'm like, "Yeah, I threw them away." She's like, "No, you're supposed to keep them." I'm like, "Oh, oopsie daisy." And she made me go to the trash can, get them out, and of course, I wasn't the one who kept them in the end. And yeah, that was that story. I can't recall any other ones at this point. For some reason, I feel like I knew more, but that was all I remember. So yeah, that was this video. If you like my stories, maybe give this video a like. Maybe I'll do more if you want to. Also, obviously subscribe. Maybe I'll leave some kind of button somewhere. And yeah, that's it. Bye!